New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Why, hello there. It's me, yes, me, Bonnie Gonzalez, your doula for grief. Welcome, welcome. A little bit about me before I proceed. I am Bonnie Gonzalez again, and I am a grief coach. I'm a registered nurse. I'm a religious science practitioner and a licensed soul collage facilitator. And the thing that I love most about all these beings, I just love being a human being right here on the planet with you at this wonderful time in all of our lives. And even if grief is present, knowing that grief is an ongoing part of our lives. And that's what I'm doing here each week, just allowing us to step into that, the reality that grief is ongoing. To bring grief out of the shadows of our lives and bring it right smack into the middle of our lives, because grief has a truly, truly superpower, and that superpower is healing. So that is the reason for embracing grief, because it has that ability to heal us. And to know that if we can feel it, we can heal it. If we're in that pain of grief, now is the time. That's why it's come up. It's come up because now is the time that we can give attention to it and heal ourselves. And I've got a great show for you, and my guest is going to have to leave a little bit early, so I want to be able to bring her on right away so that we can hear her story about grief. But she's going to share with us, keeping with our theme of retirement, who am I now? And just grieving the loss of who you were. So I want to thank you so much, Joe, grieving the loss of who you were. And it just gives me a great honor and great pleasure to bring my dear friend, Emma Moreno. And Emma is a licensed spiritual practitioner. And Emma is originally from Mexico City, but Emma has lived most of her life here in the USA. Emma graduated from the University of Washington with a master's in public health and has created and managed diverse programs focused on education and the health and well-being of Latinos, particularly LGBTQ Latinx. At the same time, though, Emma has grown as a prosperous business person in real estate for the past 22 years. Currently, Emma is a practitioner with Centers for Spiritual Living in Seattle. And Emma is also right here on New Thought Media Network. Emma is the spiritual director of the Spanish language and content for New Thought Media Network. And she's an avid student of Emma Curtis Hopkins and of Reverend Kathy Ann Lewis. Emma's work, main area of work, is the empowerment of people to live a prosperous life. So, with that, I just want to bring Emma on so that she can just, oh my gosh, allow us to share in what she has accomplished and what she's done. So, Emma, thank you. Thank you so much. I love your brightness and your cheerfulness. Emma and I met last year at the Convention of the Americas in Chapala, Mexico. So we're putting a
Right.
plug in, Emma, for next year for all to come on down to Chapala. But I just want to start by saying thank you for your yes, Emma. Thank you for your yes. So many people shy away from wanting to really come on the show and talk about grief. I've had so many people say, "Oh, what would I talk about?" And what I do want people to know, Emma, is that loss is not just about someone dying. Grief is not just about someone dying. Grief is about a loss. It's a loss. And yes, death is the biggest loss that we will encounter in this life. But also, we have to, loss of relationships, just like you, a loss of a lifestyle that you knew before, geographical moves, surgeries, aging. So we just have a plethora of losses that then put us into grief. So, with that, Emma, with that disclaimer, wanting people to know that, would love to hear your story about moving from retirement into post-retirement.
Well, first of all, thank you, Bonnie, for inviting me to this show and to inviting me to look at something that just like you described, it was hard for me to
Mm-hmm.
look back
Mm-hmm.
and to think about um, the different life that I had.
Yes.
And really, when you ask me to come to the show and talk about grief, about leaving my job,
Oh,
I
yeah.
can say
Yeah.
it took me a little bit by surprise. To my reaction, not the
Oh,
invitation, my
not
reaction.
because I asked, but the topic, maybe the
The,
topic and what was there.
not so much the topic, but I guess when I thought, do I have grief about having left my job? I,
Mm,
let me back up a little bit because I think it's important. So I'm originally from Mexico City, as you mentioned, and I moved to Seattle, where I have been living for the past 29 years. And when I moved to live in Seattle, I was a very I found the right place for me. I would gotta say that.
oh,
Seattle has
Seattle.
been a fantastic, fantastic city for me. And at the
Mhm.
time, 29 years ago, Seattle was a small city. The Latino community, the Latino community was very small.
Yes.
Um, so small that every time I was in the bus station and I would see somebody that spoke Spanish, we'll be like, "Oh, hi, oh, hi." It's, we
Yes.
didn't see, the community was small. So,
Yes.
and I was very lucky because I actually got jobs, very good jobs, almost
Hmm.
immediately. As soon as I moved to the city, there were jobs available for me for my profession that was in public health. And so I work for the University of Washington. I work mostly in for public service. So I was
Yes.
with King County, with the city of Seattle. I work for the state, and I work for the university. So all my life I was in public service,
Okay.
and I retired 2 years ago. As a matter of fact,
Oh, two.
Sep- September 4th, 2 years ago. So I'm celebrating 2 years today. And it definitely, when I look back, uh, and when I think about the grief about having um, left my profession,
Yeah.
um, it was about losing um, that so many things. But let's start with losing my identity in the sense of,
That's what. Yes.
like me no longer saying, "Oh, my name is Emma Moreno. I work for da da da," because as you know, most of us, we always introduce ourselves and then our title and what we do.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Then that was difficult. Um, then the second part was my coworkers.
Oh, yeah, your family. Yeah, your work family. Yes.
Yes, yes, because there were people in my office who I got really along with them really well. We were not just coworkers, but friends. We knew, because I worked there for a long time. In my last assignment, I worked there for 9 years. So I
Mm-hmm.
knew my coworkers very well. I knew their children, and so um, I I was missing that connection. That every day getting up, going to work, seeing my coworkers. I miss that
Mm-hmm.
moment of the coffee time. Like when you get
Oh,
to the
the morning.
office and you get your coffee and good morning. Just the small talk.
Yes.
How So that was difficult. That was difficult. I still miss that because there were several of my coworkers that I love dearly,
Mm.
and I don't get to see them anymore.
Yeah, that's
Because
sad to
life
see.
gets busy, and so no longer get to see them.
Right, right.
And then I think the my job, when in my last assignment, I was working in the city of Seattle, and my job was with the Office of Housing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so my job was to go into the construction sites and interview workers about working conditions, about making sure that they hello. uh,
Greetings from Mexico, my dear friend Megan down there. Hello, Megan. Megan's going to be a guest very soon.
okay.
Yeah. So you were
So
saying
I
that you
was
interview them about their working conditions. Is that it? Yeah.
yeah, making sure that they receive the proper wages, that they had the right conditions for work. And through my job, I was able to investigate cases where people were not being paid the correct wages, where there
Mm-hmm.
was theft in their salaries, and what is
Right.
called wage theft. And I was able
Oh,
to solve cases where people receive money back. And
mm-hmm.
so I was a very well known person in the community because, I had a good reputation for my work.
Yes. Yeah. And you were
Uh,
humanitarian there, Emma. I mean, really think about that. Advocating for people. Yes.
right, right. Through my job also, and doing investigations, I was able to investigate a couple of cases where people come from different countries. They're basically kidnapped to work in places, and so I was able to resolve some of those cases. And so Um, I was well known in my job and in the type of work that I did because of those investigations.
Right.
So, so suddenly, not having that identity anymore, not being in that field,
Mm-hmm.
not being in, every morning in my car that had logos all over the place that said City of Seattle, me with my little uniform and my little construction hat that said
Right.
City of Seattle everywhere.
You took pride in what you did. You took
I
pride in
did.
what you did. Yes. And that is why leaving that behind.
Yes, that was difficult because I no longer had that introduction card. Like when you meet somebody new and you're like, "Hi, hello." So
Yes.
that was tough. That was probably the most difficult
Mm-hmm.
aspect of being retired.
Right. Because I feel that it is at that moment that you have to say, who am I? Who am I? It's no
Right.
longer, well, for me, like the registered nurse, and for you, the, humanitarian, the city worker, you had to really sit with who you were. And with doing that, Emma, how would you how would you describe those moments of having to sit and say, who am I? How would you describe those moments?
You know, um, Maybe for the first couple of weeks, it was difficult. And maybe because I had a plan before I retired.
Okay. Okay.
But nevertheless, it was difficult. It was difficult. That change of life, just, the routines of every day,
Yeah, a lifestyle.
getting up. I know I didn't had to get up and get ready to go to work. I didn't have that moment. Oh, I'm gonna, get on the bus and uh, go to the office and have my coffee, and that was didn't exist anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so losing that routine, having to create a new routine is not that easy, because having a
Yeah.
job keeps you entertained, gives you structure,
Oh,
and
good.
when you're at home, you have to entertain yourself. You have
Okay. All right. I hadn't thought about that aspect of it, but yes, who's entertaining me now? There was, oh, there was the other week, Wayne had, Wayne, he's from Calgary, and he usually chimes in on the shows, and he put up a post and it said, I am boring. Entertain me. So when you said that, it's like, oh, what would you say to Wayne? I'm boring. Entertain me. What? Yeah. Well, what did you find to be helpful to move through that? That's what I'll
so
rephrase it.
let's start with that. I think that's a really nice way to go through what is or who Emma is now. So my partner, my wife, is not retired. I got retired, but she's not, and is working from home.
She's that. Mm.
Mm. So
Mm-mm.
even though, I could get up late and make coffee and make noise and play music, and I couldn't because, house has to be quiet because or we live in a nice space, but, I have to respect the
You have to be,
level of
yes.
noise. And so, um, so I needed to figure out, the first thing I needed to figure out was, how do I stay in the house, or how do I go outside of the house most of the time, so that I'm not, creating problems, because I
Mhm.
couldn't just be in my room. I have lots of books to read, and There's lots of great programs in New Thought Media Network I could be watching, but you make noise. You make noise.
Right. And you're being
So
respectful.
then I figure, okay, so what are the things that bring me pleasure in life?
Oh, yeah.
And then I was thinking, okay, so there are two things I need to look at. One is what gives me pleasure, and then look at my budget, right? And so
Ooh, that's another part that we should, yes, that loss of income, well, or shift in finances, we'll put it that way.
well, so then because I retired, I start getting all this information in the mail from many different sources that tell you what to do now that you retire. So then I realized that there's so many wonderful things that you can take advantage of. And I chose one that was um, to play tennis.
Oh, you took up a new hobby, huh?
Because when I was younger, when I was in college, I used to play tennis, but I haven't played tennis since. And there's a tennis club that is relatively close to my house in Seattle that offers a free courts for seniors.
Oh, there's a plus there, huh?
Free, free. Tennis is expensive. To rent a tennis court could be expensive, and this is free. So then I was like, whoa, that's kind of like a wonderful. So I went, I registered, and I started going to play tennis. I basically learning because I haven't played in a long time.
Right.
And that was one of the most wonderful things that I found, because all the seniors that are in those courts are people like me, retired. I was the youngest
Oh,
in the moment. I was
of
they
course
start
you.
calling me they start calling me what baby senior. They were calling me baby senior.
A baby senior. That's a new identity then, baby senior.
I got the baby senior identity. I was a
Yeah,
baby senior. See,
right,
so for the
right.
past 2 years, I've been baby senior, and
Mm.
so I start playing tennis for free, which I met so many wonderful people at those tennis courts because they, like me, they're just looking to have fun. It's not about, it's not competing anymore. I mean, of course, it's a game, and of course, people are there to compete and play, but they're not crazy competing. And so it's
Yes,
a lot
right.
of fun. It's a lot
Yes.
of fun, and most of them are just, and everybody's for the social part after playing tennis. Everybody's
Mm.
like, hey, let's go for coffee, let's go for a drink, let's go here, let's do that. So it was the best thing I did, and I'm
Yeah.
still playing tennis. I
Uh,
play at least 3 times a week.
wow, Emma. And you're very fortunate because a lot of people, as we mature, the mobility, joints aren't always so really supple and able to do. So that's a real plus. That's a real plus for all of those, people that are retiring and that still have that, stamina and mobility to get out there and play tennis, and just know that too is a gift. Emma,
And let me
that
tell you, Bonnie, there is one gentleman who has Parkinson and plays tennis. So, it's just one of those, whenever
uh,
I go and I play against him or in his team, it's a person that has many difficulties because of Parkinson, but
yeah.
still he plays. And that just, fills you up with energy, fills you
Mhm.
up with,
Yeah,
that's,
admiration for
I think,
that person. And then again, allowing you to turn the mirror back to you to say, wow, if he can do that, what can I do? Is there anything I cannot do, if you want to put
right.
it that way? And that's,
And then,
uh,
and
go
then,
ahead.
you, know, the second part that I when I have to answer, who are you now? Like, hi,
Yes.
who are you? I realized that when I say, oh, hi, my name is Emma Moreno, I'm retired, the conversation ended.
Oh,
Because
I.
most people are like, you know,
Hmm. So that's a stereotype that we ourselves are responsible for having to dismiss that, dispel that belief that there is nothing more that you could possibly be doing. But I do say that we do live in that society. Everything comes down to, what do you do? You go to a party, you get introduced, my name's Bonnie, and the next thing is, what do you do? And I think
so I came up with a
could
great,
we reframe that? How could we reframe that
well,
versus the
I have wonderful answers now.
oh,
Instead,
tell us, share us. Dime,
instead
as
of,
they say in Espanol. Dime.
te digo, te cuento, mira,
Okay.
uh, it's all about your attitude in life. So, like for me now, whenever I introduce myself or they ask me, what do you do? I always answer, I'm a tennis player. I'm a I'm a tennis player. So people are like, oh, really? Tennis player? So then the conversation starts. And then I tell
Mhm.
them, well, I'm retired. I play with the seniors. Things change. So
Yes, yes,
that's
yes.
one. And the other one, whenever I was saying, what do you do? And I was like, oh, I'm a baby senior. So then people are like, oh, baby senior, what's a baby senior?
Okay. Well, I call that redefining ourselves, redefining who you are after retirement. And Emma, were there any moments of just sadness? I'll put it that way, sadness. Things can't go back to the way they were before. You can't go back to being unretired. I mean, yes, you could go back to doing other things, but was there that moment of sadness of no longer being that public health worker that did X, Y, and Z? Were there true moments of that kind of sadness?
No, no.
Okay.
I think that for me, I was very clear that I could go back to do the same work,
Okay.
but my retirement really opened the door for transformation.
Mhm.
I
And
saw it
and
as a moment of transformation for my life.
and it was by choice also. You chose
Yes.
to retire at that point. And that is just really fortunate because some people don't have that. But that's why I asked, were there any true moments of sadness? And if someone did say they had that, Emma, what would your words be to them?
Um, I um, I guess I'm gonna back up a little bit. When
Mhm.
I decided I was gonna retire, um, prior to that, 5 years prior to retirement, I started working and putting together my finances, planning basically what I wanted to do and how I wanted to grow and how I wanted to develop myself, who I wanted to be after.
Mhm.
And so I was fortunate to do that, to be able to set up, you know, a plan. But I understand that that's not the same for everybody, and
Right,
some
but
people
but you're
might
yeah,
not
you're
be able.
sharing your experience. You're sharing your experience, your unique experience. So yes,
Mhm,
you put
mhm.
together a plan, you knew it was coming.
Right. And so, for people that cannot retire, what I can tell you is enjoy life. Currently I'm doing a practice that is called Carpe Diem.
That's
So
right.
every day, there's little things that you can do to enjoy life. And
Mm,
if you're working because you cannot stop working, look every day to find something in that job that brings you
mm.
joy.
Oh, that's
Could be a
beautiful.
conversation, could be a conversation with a coworker, could be looking at your paycheck.
If that brings you joy, do it, right? Do it. Do what brings you joy. And I think you said that in
Yeah.
examining yourself after retirement, you had to say, oh, what brings me pleasure? So you're advising those that are still working to ask that same question.
I
And
used, when I was working, like I said, I had 5-year plan. I had a calendar, like the one that you put a X.
oh yes,
So I used to put an X
every
uh,
day.
every day
So you got
so.
5 years of calendars with X's on them. Is that it?
But the X's were in the days where I had a vacation.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful, Emma.
The days where I had days off. And
Yes.
so I was always looking forward to the days that I had. I was fortunate. I had a job where, because I was a senior in my position, I had many days off, including um,
Mm-hmm.
sick days, vacations, union,
Yes.
everything. And so I was fortunate. I could look at the beginning of the year and every week, like, when is my last day? When is my next vacation? When is my next? Can I take 1 hour? Can I, and really, really look at that calendar and look at what day can I take? And if you don't have any more vacations, okay, when can I just go, sit down for 5 minutes in front of my desk and just say, thank you that I have a job.
Mm,
Because you might not be able to retire, but there's people who
right.
cannot retire and they don't have a job. So
Yeah.
just be grateful for what we have, grateful for that paycheck, grateful for planning retirement.
Yes.
And
Yes. Yes.
yeah, and unfortunately,
Gratitude, and I was going to say, I want to honor your time. I want to let you go, but here's what I just want you to tell us. You have a program daily on New Thought Media Network called Daily Spiritual Practice. And what time can we find Emma on New Thought Media for her daily spiritual practice? What time are you practicing daily?
so you can find me here every day at 8 o'clock.
8
My
a.m.
show, I have two shows, and they're in Spanish.
Okay,
I
that's
guess
it.
at 8 o'clock, daily
Okay,
spiritual practice,
all
and
right.
then the next one is a prayer, the prayer, living in prayer. So
Oh,
those
the
two shows I
prayer.
produce. But that's something else I want to end up with. And first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you so much
Oh, you'll
for
come
having me
back.
here.
You'll come back
Also,
for
I want to come back. I want to come now that
yes,
I got all excited. But
ongoing.
just want to say that in that process of redefining who I was, I realized that I still had so much to give. That playing tennis and staying home wasn't enough. So I started volunteering.
Oh, wonderful,
I started
wonderful.
volunteering with different programs here in New Thought Media Network. And
Yes,
currently, and that took me into what I'm doing now. That is, I'm the spiritual director of the
yes.
Spanish programming and
And
content for this
language.
network.
Yes.
So, there's
Oh,
always so much that we can do.
yes. I was going to say, and retirement just means the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. And thank you so much, Emma. And we'll be tuning in tomorrow at 8 a.m. to hear Daily Spiritual Practice, and we'll all practice our Espanol. Alrighty.
Sí, sí.
Thank
Nos
you
vemos
so much,
mañana.
Emma. I so appreciate you and just have nothing but love and respect for you. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much. And invite me again, and I tell you more stories.
Again, yes, again and again. Oh, great. Just going to take a break, and we'll come back and talk about the four gifts that grief can bring us. So thank you. Thank you, Emma. Joe, if we can go to break, that'll be wonderful.
New Thought Radio, music from all your favorite New Thought artists. From Jamie Lula, Karen Drucker, Gary Lynn Floyd, Ricky Byers, Daniel Nahmod, Eddie Watkins Jr., and many, many more. 24/7 New Thought Radio. Positively inspiring.
Hello, there we are. I was thinking I was going out with Emma there. I was a little bit delayed getting back, but thank you, Joe. Thank you for our quick break, and just want to thank our guest, Emma Moreno. What a life force she is filled with, and such an encouraging and positive person. And as I said, I got to meet her in person in Mexico, and she's just nonstop like that little energizer bunny. So knowing that retirement for her was just a matter of shifting gears, but to know that we each navigate retirement differently. And I'm just so glad that Emma could share her story. And I myself too am retired, but from nursing, but I can still work as a nurse. So that part of my identity is always intact. As Emma said, that when you tell people you're retired, that the conversation can sometimes stop when they think, oh, retired, it means you're doing nothing. But I get that advantage of saying, oh, if I do say I'm a nurse, I can sometimes say I'm a retired nurse, which still sparks people's interest. And so just knowing that we each have our own unique story when it comes to retirement and that loss of identity. And so many people that I have talked to, that I've heard them say, oh my goodness, I can't retire. What would I do? Oh my gosh, I would be so bored if I were retired. And you know, it's for them to figure that out. As Emma was saying, finding that new love of tennis and finding things that you're passionate about, her volunteering. And now we have, you know, technology and the internet, and you can explore different passions. You can even have your own podcast, broadcasts. You can come to New Thought Media Network if there are ideas that you want to pursue. And just saying that we, at this point, we no longer need to be terrified of retirement because there's nothing to do. It's a matter of, as Emma says, you know, that dropping into yourself to say, wow, what brings me pleasure? What do I enjoy? I loved when Emma said that, even if you're working, you know, starting that assessment of what brings you pleasure and what brings you joy. But that can definitely help move through that phase of retirement of saying you don't know what you would do. And I know that Megan is out there, and I was going to ask her if she had any words of wisdom of being, say, quote unquote, retired, even though I know she does lots of things, but I'll see if she has a a message she wants to drop us in the chat box. So even if we are in grief around retirement, oh, there was one more point that Emma brought up that I wanted to touch on before I moved on. She was talking about being in that office setting where it is a social time, it is a social hour. We used to call it the water cooler. I remember it being referred to as the water cooler talk or the Monday morning quarterback. There is that socialization that happens at work. There is that. That is can be your social community. I know with so many people working from home, there was grieving that loss of social interaction when everyone was working remote. So we all have experienced that of, leaving, quote unquote, our work family and not being engaged with them on a daily basis. And yes, that is a truth. And that is something that comes into play, to be a factor when we're contemplating retirement. And it's just kind of good to know some of the things that can come up, because then you can prepare for it. As Emma said, she found her tennis community and became the baby senior. So it wasn't the same people, yes, but this was replacing a need for social outlet and meeting what is required when we talk about being social and needing a social outlet. So that I'm just really glad that Emma brought that up. And the other issue that we didn't touch on, it sounds like Emma may have had some plans in place for the financial part of it, because people that are retiring, I know now some of us are boomers that are still retiring, may have somewhat retirements that we can draw from, but that is not going to be the truth for the next generation coming through. So that can be something that is very real and very scary. How am I going to make it on, less of an income? How am I going to make it on a retirement income? And this is where I want to just really encourage you to know that we as humans are very resourceful. That sense of resilience and being able to find ways. And there are groups, there are communities that are addressing just these questions. So you don't have to do this alone. You don't have to navigate these areas. I'll call them pitfalls, some of the pitfalls of the scariness of retirement. There's so many support groups now that are support groups for seniors, for support groups just for people with the financial issue of retiring. If you have a job that there's financial advisors, I say yes, take advantage of that. And if you don't have that, even if you have what's called employee assistance programs, someone that you can go to talk about these things that are scary and that have come up for you. And if that's not available, what about your social circles? What about, do you have a spiritual practice? Are you in a spiritual community? That can definitely be another place that you can go to for support. I say even talking to your clergy person if you're in a spiritual community. Also, there's also getting professional help. I love group support, getting some coaching or counseling, whatever is needed that can help you make that transition from work life to retirement life easier, because it can be very challenging. And this is something that I want to say, that sometimes people are looking for quick fixes. And these are really, truly serious life processes that don't have a quick fix. And as difficult as it is to lean into discomfort, to lean into what's scary, I know that it's difficult, but that leaning into that is what has the answer. That is what allows you to expand your thinking. And I'm just going to find a quick little read about that expansiveness of grief. So it's, I'll read this one, okay? Okay, because we're just talking about being in grief, that grief about who am I? I'm no longer who I was before, or the whole idea of, wow, I'm just not sure I can retire just yet. And grieving that, really grieving that, because that is a loss. It's a loss of that, choice, and a loss of having the opportunity to continue working when that can't be a possibility because nature is moving us along. But anyway, grief is one of the most humbling and challenging experiences we go through as human beings, because it is also the most transformative. Because grief changes us. We are no longer the person we were before contemplating this loss or being in this loss of a job. We're no longer that person. We are now seeing life through new eyes. Yes, new eyes, a new perspective. And since grief's work is so deeply and it's so slowly within our psyches, we often need inspiration to stay with the process of healing. And if we can stay with this process of healing for as long as it takes, we can tap into some deep resources from within that enables us to emerge from this darkness or dark night of the soul, or just this dark time, with more expansion, courage, connection, and empowerment than we've ever had before. Yes, this work, just staying with what is present, just staying with what is, even though it's uncomfortable, it does expand us, it does open us. We begin to really think beyond our normal, maybe smaller ways of thinking. We start to stretch and expand beyond that, asking what are other possibilities? What else is possible for our lives? What else is possible? That yes, I can't go back. I can't keep working forever. Yes, I miss the water cooler family. But what else is possible? As Emma said, she stretched herself and started playing tennis, which she hadn't done since college. And here she was at retirement age. So she was able to really expand herself. And the other thought too, the other gift of this, I'll put it that way, is courage. Because it does take a tremendous amount of courage to face our grief, our darkness, and our disappointments. And yes, it can bring us to our knees. And it does take courage to get up and keep moving forward. And this courage, it builds our confidence. It's like, if I made it through that, I can make it through anything. Or if I made it through that, I don't have to worry about what the next thing is, because I know that I'll be able to navigate that next thing. So that is another aspect, or I call them gifts of grief. You know, that the courage and the ability to really just see beyond what's here right now. And this last one, connection. And I'll read this. It's like grief can be a profoundly lonely time. It is a common experience for friends and colleagues not to show up and give us the support we need. Indeed, grief rewrites our address books. However, our grief can open the way for new connections, for deeper, richer relationships with people who understand what we're going through and who support us by being fully present without trying to fix us. And again, that's Emma has modeled that for us by finding this group of people that named her baby senior. She already had inside connection with them by being, quote unquote, in that retirement phase of life, but she found mutual friends, or got that support from people that were going through retirement or that were retired with mutual issues, concerns. And so finding, almost like, I want to use the word, finding a new community, finding her new tribe, if you want to say that she did build connection, that yes, it may be a thought that, oh, I'm going to be lonely, I won't have anybody around. But you will write, as I said, a new address book, a new addresses of new friends. And as I said, you know, this kind of thing does just shake us up. And it's like, wow, who am I now? Who am I going to be? Who do I want to be? This is a time to rewrite that who am I now? Who do I want to be? Who have I always wanted to be? And am I already that person? Because that is a true gift. When you find that you go through that, I want to be this, I want to be that, I want to be this, I want to be that. And what better gift than to realize you are already that. That is a gift to just be empowered by. And I always go back to, if you're going through this, if you're going through something really dark and heavy and feeling grief, you can best to believe that one day you'll be able to support someone else who will be going through the very same thing. That will be your job at that moment, to really encourage them. And it's like I talk about having those 4 friends. Those 4 friends come work in this situation also. That first friend is the one who has been through exactly what you've been through. Exactly that, you know, that give and take and pull and tug of preparing for retirement, or being retired, or not wanting to be retired, but maybe even finding it forced on you, but finding someone who has been through the very same thing that you've been through. And that would be deep conversations, because it's not a conversation, well, wow, I can imagine that must be hard. Wow, no, the conversation is, I've been where you have been. I know what you're feeling. This is how I was able to navigate this, or this is how I was able to just sit with this until some other solution came along, until I was moved to another place to see my situation differently. And that second friend is that one that just treats you like nothing ever happened. It's like, come on, Emma, let's go to, let's go downtown. Let's take a ferry around the harbor. That just treats you like nothing is really wrong or has ever happened to you. And the other friend is a friend that you can talk to, that you can just share. You can just be so open to talk about whatever is going on in your life without feeling like you're being judged, or that person's not going to tell you, oh, get over it, or, oh, there's a bright side, there's something good on the other side. No, that person's going to just listen. There's no advice being given, solicited, or anything there. You're not looking for advice. You're looking for a listener. You're looking for a listener. And then last is that friend that's just a truth teller, that lets you know, Bonnie, it's been a week since you've been out of your house. I know you're feeling down, depressed, but you need to look at that. Or maybe you're drinking more than you've drank in the past, because sometimes it's easy to go with addictive substances that kind of numb us and get us out of our thinking heads or out of our feeling bodies. So that can be an issue, and you just need someone that will tell you the truth, someone that's not afraid to tell you the truth. So with that, I just want to bring this to a close, bring our subject to a close of retirement. Who am I now? And who am I now? And grieving the loss of who you were. So just knowing that those are just some of the things that you can do, some of the things that you'll encounter, some thoughts to hold, and just know that you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to do it alone. We are truly social creatures, and we just love each other so much that we want to help each other, because we're such social beings. And know that that's a plus. Just know that that's a plus. So I want to thank you for being here. And I want to just talk about a few other shows that are on New Thought Media Network that just comes to mind. There's daily prayer here on New Thought Media at 8:15 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. And then there is the evening prayer, 8:15 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. and that's all Mountain Time. And I have some beautiful friends that have a show called Rockin' the Love, and that airs on Wednesdays, and that's at 12 noon. And Robin and Gil Rice Olmsted. And then we also have Choice, Your Superpower, which is on at 11 a.m. I'm sure that is Pacific time, so that would be 12 noon Mountain Time. So there's just wonderful programming happening here on New Thought Media Network. And so, take a look, newthoughtmedia.org, and also make a donation so that we can continue to have wonderful programming that allows some difficult subjects to be broached and talked about. And if making that donation is NTMEDIA.org, and that stands for New Thought Media.org, and donate. And we just appreciate having your donations so that we can continue to bring you quality programming. So that's all for this week. And I just want you to just take a look in the mirror today and look in your own eyes and say, what do I need today? What do I need today? And go and answer that. Answer that request. So again, Bonnie Gonzalez, your doula for grief. I am a grief coach and I'm here for you. Thank you. See you next time.